Welcome to another edition of Yorkshire Kris Weekly. This episode won't feature me much in it because I'm not feeling too great today, so I'm just going to show you a few things in the garden, including mainly what's happened to a lot of the plants after the very cold few days we had just less than 2 weeks ago when we had a frost on 2 or 3 nights in a row. And I'll show you how that's affected the plants, and I'll also show you a few things in the greenhouse, how I heat it, and the new thermostat to control the heaters as well. So as you can see, the colocasias did not like the frost whatsoever. So these are some of the pink chinas, looking very squishy and miserable. All the leaves have completely gone to mush, and most of the stalks have as well. So when I'm feeling a bit better, I will mulch this area, and I'll show that in a future video. The Cycas revoluta can cope with a little bit of frost, and as you can see it's still looking perfectly green. I am going to protect this really well this winter, and again I'll show you what I do in an upcoming video. Here's an interesting feature on this Tetrapanax rex, and that is the leaves that have really had the full force of the cold, sort of radiation frost, have gone this sort of purpley, maroony, sort of black colour, rather than completely gone to mush. So they've sort of survived and kept the structure but turned this colour, whereas the more protected leaves, if we zoom into the one down there, is still totally green and very happy. And that's the same for most of the leaves, to be honest, which have been protected by, in this case, we've got the bamboo above it. And over here, again, we've got more green leaves of the Tetrapanax, and just a few centimetres away you've got these purple leaves. It does show you the effect of very, very localised conditions of climate on survival and the change in the colour of these Tetrapanax leaves. Here we have the cannas. Still loads of seeds on here, but as you can see the foliage has mainly gone brown with the frost from a couple of weeks ago. In contrast, next to that again, Tetrapanax is looking very green in this location. Now the tree ferns, Dicksonia antarctica, are still totally green, in perfect health, not being affected by the frost whatsoever. And if we just go down here, the Cyathea, again, completely fine, still slowly pushing out new leaves, and totally green and healthy, but this definitely will need protecting before it gets really cold. So this wasn't bothered by the frosts, and is in a very much contrast to the cannas which I just showed you earlier. Now here we have a ginger, Hedychium greenii, which just started to flower before the frost got it, and as you can see it's totally decimated the foliage on this plant, but this will be mulched soon and it will grow back next year totally fine. Here we have the Amesia zygomeris, and as you can see that's just gone sort of white, and all the leaves have died on this with the frost. This is sort of a half hardy returning shrub really, of perennial, herbaceous perennial, and this will come back next year with a decent mulch. As you can see, this frost has really decimated the foliage. The same with the Amaranthus here as well, which are only annuals. As you saw from earlier videos, got millions of seeds that will grow new plants next year. Now here's the Irricene that I've taken lots of cuttings of, and as you can see it was a good job that I did that, because hollow plants left in the ground completely gone to mush, No sign of life in these whatsoever. Now the castor oil plants, the ricinus, they've been really zapped by the frost we had on most of the leaves, certainly the ones exposed to the clear skies. The ones in the centre look fine because they had protection from the leaves above, but most of the leaves have been zapped, and unfortunately it means probably that I won't have any seeds to collect this year because they did start ripening a bit too late. And these have been zapped as well, but we've got some others over there, so only a few meters away, that aren't too badly affected. And as you can see, dahlias didn't like the frost whatsoever. They've been totally zapped as well. And I'll cut back all the foliage off these, and then they will grow back next year with a little bit of mulch over the top. This is probably hard to tell what it is or was, but this is Persicaria Purple Fantasy, which hates frost, completely zapped by it. It's a very hardy plant. It will regrow very well in spring, and even in spring if it gets a late frost it will come back quickly, but it really hates the frost. And there's only a few leaves at the bottom which had a bit more protection that have survived. Now here's some more Irricene that's completely to mush, and I just want to show you the difference the slightest bit of protection makes, in this case overhead protection against radiation frosts. So these are completely lifeless now, but just a few centimetres away we still have quite a few Irricene looking okay. And this is due to the fact that just above them you've got these ricinus leaves and the palm leaves here, just giving just a tiny bit of protection, just enough to keep these being unaffected by the frost, whereas just a few centimetres away, like I said, completely gone to mush. It does show you how very local conditions can affect plants, and in this case obviously they're tender and they're not going to get through winter. If you have a plant that's borderline hardy, then just a little bit of protection can make all the difference to getting it through winter, and this really applies to certain half hardy palm trees. Now we've looked at a lot of plants that have gone to mush, which are mainly the colourful impact plants that we use for the summer. But there's loads of plants in the garden that are completely unaffected by the cold, and these are sort of the backbone structural elements of the garden. In this case, as you can see here, we've got the Mahonia soft caress in the foreground, we've got the fatsias, and behind that we've got the bamboos, which are very hardy and they always look really good, nice and green all year round. And there's lots of other plants that are still green even though we've had a couple of frosts. The yuccas, these are very hardy. This yucca recurvifolia here, fantastic leaves, pretty sharp obviously, but they always look in great condition, really hardy. I wouldn't be without them in the garden. No protection over winter required on these at all. And now the bedding plants have died down because of the frost. You can have a good look at this Trachycarpus fortunei, and this is a beautiful form with really stiff large leaves now. Really great form on this one, completely picked at random from a garden centre. It looked a rubbish little plant, but it's grown and blossomed really into this fantastic palm, which is growing a nice thick sturdy trunk down there. And again, palm trees like this form the backbone of any good exotic garden because they look fantastic all year round. There's no protection whatsoever, not even wrapping up or no frame over the top, so it can look good front garden, back garden, anywhere, as long as it's not too windy, which would damage the fronds, but it will still grow well. The aloe striatulas, they're still looking perfect health. Loads of these. Need to cut back these next year, but these are great evergreen plants that look really exotic. So this one in particular is a great one to have in the garden. A lot of other aloes are much more tender, but not aloe striatula, which is also known by a new name as well now. Here's another hardy aloe. This is aloe polyphylla with this sort of spiral-like shape of the rosette here, and these leaves are in great condition. I will protect this over winter, but at the moment it's looking great even though we've had a few frosts. This Decelarium, again very hardy, down to at least -10. Even without protection it should be fine at those temperatures. This one survived winter 2010, although I did have to pretty much regrow back after that extraordinary cold winter. But as you can see, not affected by the light frosts, and gives a really great architectural feature in the garden. So the agaves in this bed are still looking in perfect health. We've got Americana there, and Lafantha there, and Montana behind it. They will get some protection soon on a future video to protect really from the snow and ice forming in the crowns of these, in the centre of the rosettes, but some light frost will not harm these at all. I've not really shown this plant this year, but this is the honey spurge Melianthus. As you can see, the leaves don't mind a little bit of frost. It does if it gets down to -2 to 5-ish, it will start damaging the leaves, but down to freezing or so, they're unaffected. Beautiful glaucous, bluey green serrated leaves that look really good and grow much better later on in the year, like now, rather than early summer. And I don't think anything beats the coloration of Brea amata. Stunning white blue leaves. Look at it in the sun at the moment. Looks absolutely stunning. Completely hardy down to freezing. But obviously when it gets longer cold spells, -5 and lower, then it could take damage. But for some parts of the country, and even here with some protection, it does get through winters relatively unscathed. And it's grown pretty well this year and looks stunning even though we're in towards the middle of November. Here's a half-hardy Trachycarpus latisectus palm, and as you can see, still completely green. The frost did nothing to these leaves whatsoever. And the even more tender Trachycarpus martianus, with the lighter green leaves, have been totally unaffected by the frosts. But this definitely does need protection in my location to get through the worst of the winter. And again, I'll be showing you what I do in an upcoming video. The Sarracenia carnivorous plants, again, not affected by the frost really. A little bit of browning on the edges of the oldest pictures, but overall they look totally fine. Even the cacti still outside, still looking fine. This is a Puntia robusta, no damage on that. And here's another cacti, still looking fine. And behind it, more cacti and agaves, again unaffected by the frost. And here's some beautiful Aeonium Schwarzschopfs. Absolutely in perfect condition. You could say I've been lucky with these because we did have, like I said, a few frosts. But these haven't been touched by it at all. They don't like extended periods of cold, but light frosts are totally fine. But I will be bringing these in an upcoming video, and also leaving some out. So I will show you what I do with these in the next week or two. Now, something I thought I'd show you is my setup for heating the greenhouse. It's something a lot of people ask about, and there's obviously various ways of doing it, and I'll just show you what I use. So obviously you've got electricity supply into the greenhouse by a professional electrician who installed this, and then what I've got from the main power supply here is we've got a fan heater which is down here. This is a very cheap fan heater I've had for years. I think it cost £20, and this is connected to a thermostat, and until very recently I used a thermostat like this. Basically you put the plug from the heater into here and then this into the power supply, and you can set a temperature on here and it will keep it within a degree or so of that temperature by turning it on and off. So you would set the heater all the way to full, put it onto full power, and then when the temperature dips down too low, the heater would come on, and vice versa. Trouble is, this sort of adapter is really meant for indoors, and it's not the best quality, and it's stopped being reliable this year, so I've upgraded and got a much better thermostat. So what I'm now using is this, and this is a BioGreen Thermo 2 thermostat. Works in a similar way. So the heater's plugged into the front of the thermostat, and then the cable goes from here to the power supply. And then I've set this at the moment to be 14 degrees, so it's pretty warm in here. As I mentioned in an earlier video, that is to keep it warm so that my Alteti bananas start rooting a little bit, because I'm going to try to keep those ticking over this winter. And you can set the temperature anywhere, I think between something silly like -40 up to 99 degrees in 1 degree intervals, and then it just keeps your energy costs down, because it doesn't mean it's on all the time. You do get a little thermostat on your heaters. You can turn this dial round to lower temperature, but I find that to be very unreliable. It's much better to have a separate thermostat, and it will save you loads of money in the long run. This cost £60, this thermostat, but I've already noticed the heating costs each night have come down a lot from when I was using the less reliable thermostat, so it will earn its keep. So that is the thermostat, and obviously you've got a temperature sensor, so you've got the wire coming out here, and then this, at the end of this, got a little temperature probe, and that monitors the temperature, which I've put in the middle of this shelf of this greenhouse just to get an average temperature, because obviously there's cool spots and hot spots in a greenhouse, and I'm just doing an average sort of temperature. So that's thermostat for that. And for my propagator up here, which has the iricene cuttings, I have a different thermostat which I've set to be 21 degrees, and that's the current temperature above, and that's the ideal temperature. Just keeping within a degree or so of the ideal temperature, which I can put up or down. Basically that means the warmth in here is 21 degrees on the end of this probe, which is sort of in the soil of one of the pots in there. So it keeps it pretty warm. This thermostat can keep the temperature up to about 15 degrees warmer than the ambient temperature. So that's 14 degrees roughly in the air. So the maximum temperature in here could be up to about 29-30 degrees at best. Obviously when I drop the temperature of the greenhouse down to say 5 degrees, the maximum temperature I could get in here is about 20 degrees. And again, it works in a similar way with the power and the probe, and it keeps it a nice even temperature so that the cuttings grow well. And as you can see, if I just peek through there, they're growing really well. Thanks for watching this edition of Yorkshire Kris Weekly. Hope you found it interesting in some respects. Hopefully next week I'll be feeling a lot better and we'll have a far more practical video to share with you. Thanks for watching.